Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How's everybody doing?
Good. Well, thanks for coming on. It's exciting to be here on the GMA Book Club site. Um, on the offhand chance that people don't know what Una Out of Order is, I can't imagine how this would even be the case. But just pretend. What's the elevator pitch for your book in case they don't know?
Sure thing. So, Una Out of Order is about a woman who goes from being an 18-year-old in 1982 on New Year's Eve on the cusp of all of these exciting decisions she needs to make in her life to passing out right at the stroke of midnight, waking up in her 51-year-old body in 2015 in a strange house with a stranger who tells her this is her house, only to learn that every year she is going to leap into her body at a different age in her own adult timeline. Hence the title, Una Out of Order.
This is such a genius idea for a book to essentially tell the story out of order. It's not just her life, but it's the book too. So you don't know what's coming when. How did you come up with the idea for this?
Well, I didn't know what was coming when I was writing it too, so it surprised me.
You cannot tell, by the way. So
So I found myself, in my late 30s, kind of wondering sort of what is a, almost 40-year-old supposed to be like and feel like. And I found there were all of these articles coming out of albums that came out when I was in high school celebrating their 20th, 25th anniversary, and just I'd have these feelings of disconnect. Like, how could I possibly be pushing 40 when I still feel like I'm a 19-year-old some days? And then, of course, other days I'd wake up and feel quite older than my late 30s. And it got me thinking, what about a story where a woman also feels like she's different ages on the inside and outside because she actually is, because she travels through time every year and lives her life out of order. And just as soon as that came to me, considering all of the time travel stories that I've loved over the years and all of the pop culture that I've, grown up on, it just gelled and it was like a lightning bolt. Like, yes, this is the next story that I need to write.
totally. And by the way, I can't think of anybody I know who has not looked in the mirror and thought, wait a minute, what's going on? I feel like I'm 20 years younger than what I look like right now. I feel like that's
Yes.
sort of a consistent thread. So I'm glad Una can relate even on a bigger scale to that emotion.
Yeah, I thought it would be fun to use the time travel because a lot of times time travel is more about like saving the world or changing this really important event in history. And I thought, well, what about the way that time travel would just affect a person and that's trying to live a regular life? And, what would happen if one year they time travel to a year where they wake up married to a man they've never met? And I mean, how many of us have felt like somebody we've known for years all of a sudden is like a stranger to us? So it was fun to use the time travel as a device to explore these more everyday, common feelings that I feel like people can identify with.
It's sort of a fun exercise to think about trying now while we're all at home. If we could go back, like if we could imagine, doing a leap into a year where we're 65, what would we want that to look like? Or what do we think? Or what would we want to take with us from now? I don't know. Kind of a
Totally.
interesting. So tell me about your process of writing this book.
It was very kind of organic, and I definitely took down some notes. I mean, it would be crazy to go into it completely blind. So I tried to map out a few years and think about, okay, what would be, I tried to think broadly. Okay, here is this woman who's gone from being 18 in 1982. Obviously, the first leap has to be fish out of water. It has to be far into the future. I wanted to keep it very realistic and rooted in reality as much as possible. So I didn't go into years that we have not experienced. So I thought, okay, so 2015, that's as far as we'll go. I wanted there to be a big age difference. And then I just started thinking about, okay, what would be interesting scenarios to explore and, like life events and people that like she is supposed to know who know her, who are, completely new to her, such as her husband or a group of friends, and what would her dynamic with her mother look like. So I just sort of, I thought more kind of widely about here are the things that it would be interesting to explore within the scope of time travel. And then I just found as I wrote it, kind of the years lined up, and I found that I kind of chose, okay, this is the leap that should come next, or this is the decade that she should experience next. So it was a really nice kind of process of finding each link in the chain of the story as I went along.
I feel like one thing that courses through all the different years is your use of music and referencing songs that were big at the time. And you even have a Spotify playlist of all of Una's songs, which is so awesome. And there's a quote in the book about how music is as essential as air. And I got the feeling like you were totally into music yourself. So can you just talk about sort of the role of music for you personally and how you inserted it into the book?
Sure, for sure. I mean, my parents growing up, my father, my late father was a former opera singer. My mother was a pianist, a conductor, and a singer. So music was in my house from the time, from as far back as I can remember, and then kind of developing my own tastes as an adolescent, and then in my 20s, it has always been a through line for me. And with writing, I would say it's become more of a soundtrack. And I think when I write, I do picture the scenes almost like TV or movie scenes, very visually and very, like, I try to use all of my senses. So I think about, like, what is the music that's playing in all of these scenes that I'm writing, and also for the character, since she is 18, and that those were the years where music was such a huge part of who I was and the people that I connected with. It organically came about that it would be this essential part of her character, and because there is this timeless quality to music, it made sense that it would be this through line as the story went on.
I have a friend who says the first thing that she does since she was like 14 years old when she walks in the door is turn her radio on, turn her stereo on. Now it's like, iTunes, whatever. Some people just need music all the time. Is that how you are?
No, no, actually, for me, it's now more selective, and it is when I draft and I'm writing something new or rewriting scenes, I do use it more to enhance kind of the soundtrack of what it is. I try to find songs or playlists or albums that I feel like would complement what I'm writing. And so now it's kind of more sort of at certain times. And then I have like concentration and focus music when I'm doing something that like really requires me to like buckle down, like if it's copy edits or something a little more nitty gritty. So I don't have it kind of on all the time, but it's still definitely essential to me at certain points, especially in my creative life.
Tell me a little more about the mother-daughter relationship that courses through this book, which is so important and one of the main relationships that you wrote about.
Yes, so Una, considering she has such an unusual predicament with living her life, year to year, never knowing where she'll end up, she needed to have at least one person in her life who was a constant, and that was her mother. And certainly I drew from some of my own personal experiences with my mother, who I'm very close with, and who's been one of my kind of biggest supporters and constants in my life. And I thought it would be fun to explore that relationship between a parent and child, where certainly the level of closeness changes from year to year, and also the level of wisdom, how sometimes, when you're a teenager, you think you know more than your parents, and then other times, because you do have different experiences, I think both a parent and a child can always learn from each other. And there's this Russian expression my mother used to tell me all the time when I was growing up. Whenever I'd kind of become too much of a know-it-all, she'd be like, oh, look at that. The egg is trying to teach the chicken. So I definitely incorporated some of those ideas, except in Una's case, sometimes she is older than her mother or does have a different type of wisdom because she's seen things in the future. She's experienced things that her mother, living, a boring chronological life, hasn't experienced. So it was a lot of fun to kind of explore that mother-daughter relationship within the more outrageous context.
Well, Margarita, thank you so much. Thanks for talking to everybody from GMA Book Club, and thanks for writing this fantastic book. And I'm Zibby Owens, and
thank you all.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.